All right, let's take a look at this question. It's asking us to find an equation in standard form, and if you remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c, where the coefficient a, b, and c are just numbers. And we're looking for an equation that has a standard form line having an x-intercept of 4 and a y-intercept of -6. So if you recall what x-intercept and y-intercept is, x-intercept is where the line crosses over the x-axis. So at 1, 2, 3, 4, this point right here is 4, 0. This is your x-intercept. And your y-intercept is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -6. So this point is 0, -6. Now you're not required to graph it, but I like to graph it so that I make sure I understand that the point is 4, 0 and 0, -6, not the other way around. All right, so now that we have the points, we are going to find the slope of this equation. And if you remember how to find slope back in Algebra 1, it was y2 minus y1, which is the change in y, over the change in x. So we'll say that this is your y2 and your y1, x2, and x1, y2. So y2, excuse me, this is your x1, y1, and x2, y2. So your y2 is your -6 minus 0, which is your y1, over x2, which is 0, minus 4. Go ahead and solve for that. And we get -6 over -4, which is a positive. Negative divided by negative is a positive 6/4. And then we always reduce to get simplified form. All right, so the slope of this equation so far we know is 3, 2. The other thing we know is the x and the y can be 4, 0, and also 0, -6, meaning that we're actually looking for the equation of this line. We're trying to find the equation of this line. So if we use y equals mx plus b, using what's given, we can either use this point or this point because both points are on this line. I'll go ahead and use that point right there. We have 0 for y equals the slope, which we just found, 3/2. X is 4 times 4 plus b. We'll go ahead and solve for b. So we have 0, and this is 12 over 2 plus b. 12 over 2 is 6 plus b equals 0. Again, we're trying to get b by itself, subtract 6 to both sides, so the y-intercept is -6. So now we have the slope and the y-intercept. We'll go ahead and plug this into our equation. Y equals m, which is the slope, x plus now is -6. Now we're not exactly done because standard form is not the same as y-intercept form. So to get this into y-intercept form, we're going to put the x and y on one side. Notice how the x and y are on the left side of the equal sign. So we're going to subtract 3/2 x, subtract 3/2 x, and we get -3/2 x equals -6, -3/2 x plus y equals -6. Now, this is not exactly standard form yet because if you remember, a, the coefficient in front of x, cannot be a negative, no negatives, and no fractions. It's just a rule that we have to remember. The a, the coefficient in front of x, cannot be a negative and it cannot be a fraction. So in order to fix that, we're just going to multiply everything by a negative to get rid of that negative, and by a 2, so we get rid of the 2. So make sure you distribute all the way across, and we're going to end up with 3x plus -2y equals +12. And there we have our equation. We found an equation that's in standard form, ax plus by equals c, and it has an x-intercept of 4 and a y-intercept of -6 because we plugged these equations in to find the slope. Found the slope, plugged the formula into the formula y equals mx plus b, found what y-intercept was, plugged it back in the equation, but it wasn't in standard form yet, so we had to multiply everything by -2, and we get 3x plus -2y equals +12.